Hey, this is Amy, and I'm so excited to walk you through my Trello workflows. Trello is a Kanban board. Kanban is a process that was invented by the Japanese manufacturing companies back in, I believe, the 80s to track a part or a vehicle or whatever they were creating through the different stages of manufacture to know who was in control of it, where were things getting stuck, how much was done, which parts of the process were building up and which were, moving at a good clip. Essentially, you take a physical card and you move it into columns, so all you have to do is look at your board and see where things are. And this translates really well to working on your own products on your own time. I've created a series of workflows for you to follow. Probably they won't perfectly fit you, they won't fit every project, but they'll help you get started so that you know how to customize it for yourself. Let's look at creating a book first. So if you want to create a book and you have access to these Trello boards and you have this how-to video, you want to go to trello.com/jfsbook. Be logged in as your own Trello account. I created a test account so you can see what it's like. Go to the board, let's say creating a book. Bam, click it. And then go to menu, go to more, go to copy board. Say my new book. Give it a name. You can make it private or you can share it with people. I'm gonna leave it private. And keep the cards is a good idea. So keep cards, create. Ta-da! Now here's my copy in my private account of the book workflow. So you can see here that I've left helpful notes in the workflow to show you how to use it. And I'm also going to walk through it with this video. So the very first thing you do when you want to write a book is to come up with a ton of topic ideas or reasons or end results for the user. However you're starting, I always suggest think about, well, what is the user going to do at the end? What is the reader going to have felt, experienced, thought, questioned, or achieved, or tried at the end of the book? Make a list of these things. Create a card, for example. When I was talking about, when I was working on Just Fucking Ship, I thought, well, they need to have a backwards plan. And they need to understand that fear of failure is actually kind of a lie, and how to think, more productively about it. So you create these cards. And topic ideas is a great idea to dump any idea that you have for the book. A drawing, someone you should interview, wild ideas, things you can't really do in real life, whatever. Dump them all in topic ideas. Any research that you have or need to do, create a card for it. For example, if I can find statistics on projects that don't ship versus projects that flop. I think it's unlikely that I actually can find that easily, but here it's in my research column as an idea of something I might want to do. The very first thing you want to do is just dump all your ideas so they're not sitting in the back of your head, stewing and making it hard for you to act. Once you have actually got all your topic ideas, all your research ideas, whatever research or existing content, raw materials you already have, plop them in these two columns. You can write your idea in the name of the card. You can fill it out with notes. You can attach files and all that good stuff. Have them all here at hand. Go through them and then think about your customer, think about your reader, think about your user, think about what their end result is. Go through, create your backwards plan as you learn to do in the book, and just outline. Chapter 1, blah, 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 blah. Chapter 2, blah, 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 blah. As you then start writing, take your chapter, drag it to writing in progress. Personally, I recommend here that you start your timer. So I might say, I'm working on something. I'm going to add my 10 minutes I already put in. Timer. So you start your timer for what you're working on, blah, 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 blah. You describe the goal of your chapter. What a chapter is like a book. Start with the end, work your way backwards. Create your actual outline points. It really doesn't have to be super specific for most of you. Create them as a checkbox. Then as you actually write in your other window, you can check them off. And then when you're done with that chapter, at least for the first draft, move it on over to review to edit. You can, depending on how you like to work, you can bam, 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 write a bunch of chapters and then edit them later. Or write one, review one, edit one. It all depends on how you like to work. When you're ready to revise your chapter, when you've done the editing, don't forget to check your time for editing, move it on over to revise. After you've done your review or editing, and after you've done your revisions, move it on over to ready. Or done, even. Now, depending on how you're writing your book, you might have some extra workflow additions here. Frankly, maybe you have a copy editing step and then a revision step, or maybe you have review and edit, maybe you edit as you go along. It all depends on how you personally like to work. The important thing is to change these columns so they look like the way you naturally work, or that you would like to work, and just stick to it. If you're writing a real book for a real, quote unquote, real book for a real publisher, and then there's a bunch of waiting involved, or there's a bunch of formalized steps, create columns for each of those. So if you send something out to an editor and you have to wait, put it in waiting on. And then it won't get lost in the shuffle. You might need a first draft, second draft, third draft column. You might have a to do the layout column. Depends on how you're working. The key, though, being that you gather all your information, take your goals for the end result, work on your backwards plan of all the chapters, and work on a backwards plan for each chapter, your basic outline, and then track it through the process. Customize as needed. Now, one cool thing that you can do is labels. You could say that something is a story chapter or a technical chapter, or you could use labels to track whether something's ready to typeset, or you can add people, you can assign a person. I'm not perfect. There he is. I'm going to be like, Alex, this chapter is for you. You write it. Ta-da. Trello is really great that way. Makes it really easy, although sometimes you might click the wrong thing like I just did. So there's your basic idea, how to do a new book. Let's go back to the boards. This recent boards will show you the boards that I created, as well as the boards in your actual account. Don't be too terribly confused by this. You want to go back to this one. And here we can go back to the view organization page. So now that you've seen how I go through creating a book, take an insider peek into my current Just Fucking Ship board. Looks a bit different because there's all this stuff in done. Now I had a bunch of research type materials all in here. These are my ideas. This was my ideas column. Most of it didn't have a ton of information in it. And it's not in any particular order now, but I used that to create these actual outline cards, which I moved from in progress to line edit and to done, because I ended up not doing a layout. Now I've still got some research content that I find useful that I haven't worked into the book completely yet, and I just have it in here so I don't forget it. I can add it later. I've also added a regular old to-do column that just goes through a bunch of things I want to do to enhance and promote Just Fucking Ship. I have a whole nother board for the Ship by September launch, for example. It is really, really rewarding to look through here and see all the stuff I did. I also enjoyed tracking my time. So let's go back to the organization page and peek through the other workflows. So let's look at scoping and managing a project of all kinds. The basic columns, the basic steps in the process for essentially any project is to first define all of the sub-projects. So for example, when I did my office renovation, I used this project column to say things like flooring and insurance, you know, and getting things done parlance, a whole project all unto itself. And then when it came to actually doing things, like what if you can't do flooring? So I had to do things like create my flooring project over here. And then inside I would be like, well, I need to find out these things. And then I'd create individual cards from those to-dos, and then I would track them. There's a whole huge long list of to-dos, like call flooring company, or like get final date for flooring delivery, or contact laminate company about damaged boards, etc. And when it was being done by me or my assistants, it would be here in the doing column with their face. If we were waiting to hear back from a contractor, insurance agent, the landlord, get a check in the mail, get a refund from the flooring company, there was a lot of waiting. It would hang out here so we couldn't lose track of it, because if you've ever run a construction project, you'll know that 50% of the mistakes come when you forget about something you're waiting on. And finally, when it was done, we would drag it all over here to the done column. If there were things we wanted to do but decided we couldn't do within the time or budget that we had, and maybe we do them later, we'd put them in deferred. So this works for any project. This works for books too. I like having a specific workflow for the type of creative work I'm doing, but it's not necessary. This, honestly, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 column setup is sufficient to handle most projects if you're disciplined. You might have, for example, to do edit chapter 1, to do write chapter 1, to do fact check chapter 1. It is, however, easier to move it through the actual columns: edit, fact check, layout. So back to the organization. Along those lines, creating a podcast or interview series. Again, this board, these columns these steps, they might differ depending on your process. I've created a process for a podcast that takes guests. If your podcast is a monologue series or you read stuff, you don't need the guests thing. In fact, I would replace guests with topic ideas or episode ideas. So again, you start with all of your ideas on the left, whether it's who should I talk to, or what topics should I have, or both. And then you move it forward. If it's guests, you would say, all right, well, I'm going to create a copy of this board. Copy. My new podcast. It'll take me right to it. You can tell the color changes. So I'm going to say, what if I could get Jerry Springer on my podcast? I can't type. Haskell the cat just walked into the room. So Haskell, let's do a podcast. Meow. Yeah? You going to say something, Haskell? Okay. So Jerry Springer is too high flying for me. So I'm going to ask Haskell the cat if he wants to be on the podcast with me, because he's in the room. So I'm going to move him from a wild blue yonder potential to a list of people who I'm actually going to pitch. Well, people or cats. That was the sound of Haskell running away, by the way. So I've got my list of people to actually contact, and then when I've contacted them, I'm going to put them in the pitched column. Now, the way I've set it up, they hang out and pitched until they've answered in the affirmative or said no. If they say no, well, then you can just archive the card and cry into your pillow at night. I don't know. Even my cat doesn't want to be on my podcast. Sniff. However, if they respond in the affirmative, then I move Haskell to scheduling, because God knows it's its own step. Really can be tricky to schedule with your podcasting guests. Once it's scheduled, move it to scheduled. Put, hey, Aug 10th, 3 p.m., 6 p.m. Haskell the cat, all scheduled. Then you can work on what is the topic. Go back and forth. Checklists, things to cover. You can invite Haskell the cat to this card if you want. And you can have, here's our topic number 1, number 2, etc. You can use this when you're recording. Once you've done recording, put it in to editing. When it's all done, ready to be scheduled, for example, and when it's actually published, ta-da! You can also use the promotion column to track the episodes that you need to promote, whether or not they're already published. You can really customize this however your workflow works. I think you're getting the idea. Let's look at the feature decision matrix. Now, several of the techniques in Just Fucking Ship tell you to shop the shelf. Consider your difficulty setting. Remember that a lot of things that matter to you don't matter to your guest or customer. How do you apply these ideas on a daily basis? Well, you use a decision matrix. But Amy, this isn't a matrix, you say. Well, it is actually. So let me show you how this works, because this can absolutely revolutionize the way that you plan and decide on your new features. So again, we've got on the left the wild blue yonder, crazy ideas. What if my project management app did all the work for you? Yeah, right. That's a crazy, crazy dream. Or what if the PM app contacted you every morning and said, hey, here's what's on your plate? What if it integrated with QuickBooks, which, by the way, we know is horrible. So you come up with all of your crazy ideas, some of them less crazy than others, and sort them into high impact for the customer, easy for you to make. Low impact for the customer, but easy for you to make. High impact for the customer and hard for you to make. And low impact for the customer and hard to make. Things in this column, low impact, hard to make, there's no point in doing them. High impact, easy to implement, on the other hand, is the other end of the spectrum. Well worth doing. For example, an email. Sending an email every day is way easier than, doing all your work or integrating with QuickBooks. So a high impact, hard to implement thing might be an integration or data crunching feature or any other thing like that. Oh, a video component for your book on Just Fucking Shipping. Well, we see where that gets us. Once you've used this matrix to sort out all of your crazy and not so crazy ideas, it can become clear what you need to do to give your customers the result they want. I know that in my experience, at least with software development inside teams and consulting organizations and startups, this rarely gets done. It also rarely gets done when people think that they're going to create a video course or a workshop or a membership community. They don't usually sit down and rank things by impact versus cost, so to speak. This can give you such an edge if you sit down and do this. And then when you have all your ideas sorted, and this is an ongoing process, by the way, you can actually create a column of things you choose to actually implement. So I'm definitely going to implement this email thing. I'm going to move it over here. And then I can actually move it to a board of actual features. So you can move things around Trello. You can copy them. It makes it really easy. And once you've decided to do it, add it to your actual product board, which has all the good to do, doing, waiting on, done, etc. Lastly, but not leastly, let's look at Mr. Purple here, launch planning. This one's a real bonus for you. It's not just a set of columns. I've included quite a bit of advice about how to craft your launch. And it doesn't matter if you're launching something that costs money or something you just really wish people would adopt for free, whether it's to read your first 10 blog posts or your free ebook or try your free tool or whatever. It doesn't matter. The idea of launch is the same. You want to build anticipation. When it comes to launch, make a list of any content that you might use that will draw people in. questions people have that you found or that they've asked you, interesting data you have, stories or experience of you creating this thing, or the people that inspired you to create it. Objections, like, well, I would never use that. Tell them why that's not necessarily true. Case studies, samples, freebies, recordings, good stuff like this. Put it all in here. You're not going to use it all. Just dump it all out here so you can see what you've got, just like every other process so far. Then create your outline, much like the book. When you do a launch, you want to have between 3 and 7 pieces of content that build up anticipation. For each one, you want to create a card along with the date and the end goal. So let's say day 1 of your launch. Oh my God, what if I blow my launch? I'm going to create a rough outline here. I've got some checklists and I can't interact with them because I haven't made my own copy. So I'm going to do that now. Copy board. Launch. Cool. Here we are. Mine. And I'm going to be saucy and change the background. Let's make it orange. Fun. So, oh my God, what if I blow my launch? Day 1. This is the biggest fear that a lot of people have. So I'm going to set the scene by telling you about what a failed launch feels like and looks like. But it's not a big deal because you can see how I use sort of a dramatic arc here. And if I need to collect something to write or create this launch content, I'm going to add it here as a checklist item. Then as I go to write this, I'm going to move it to producing. Or if it's a recording, I need it producing because it could be writing, recording, drawing, whatever. Then once I'm done creating it, I'm going to go into my email software and schedule it. And then I can see that it is scheduled over here as well. Then I only know I have to work on what's left. If you have any miscellaneous launch to-dos like test credit card payment flow, put them here. You can add other columns if you need to. If you have concerns or unknowns with your launch, go ahead, add some new cards. You can add more columns to this if you need it, but this is really a good start. If you have bigger projects related to your launch, such as finish this billing feature or whatever, then you want those to go in a different board. You want to keep this all about the actual launch itself and not the bigger, deeper things it depends on. Otherwise, you'll go crazy. That's why I always like to do my launches in a separate board, no matter what else I'm working on. I've got advice in here. Many of these cards have advice. So whenever you see the little dash, dash, dash down there, that means, hey, there's stuff inside. Well, let's check it out. So when you go to this, I've put all the notes up front for you. But when you go to the book, where are you? There you are. I've shown that you can put notes in here, and I have a sample outline and all that good stuff. I've got some advice here about the editing process. It's all pretty lightweight, but you can really, I think, see and use this to organize yourself. And remember, customize it for the way that you work. And it's going to be something you learn in process. You'll learn your process when you're in motion. So try my process, and if you find it chafes, change it. You don't need to sit down before you ever start working and think, what is the most efficient way on the planet for me to get this done? It's okay if it evolves as you go. God knows I've learned this the hard way, but these templates are a great place to start, and you have access to them, and you can make as many copies as you like, and then you can copy your own boards when you customize them, and on and on and on. It basically is a virtuous cycle of template, process, workflow, nerdery. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. help@30by500.com.